Welcome to the AI Adoption Podcast. I'm your host, Professor Ashley Braganza, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome to this episode Heather Black, the CEO of Supermums. Heather, welcome to the AI Adoption Podcast. Before we get started, could I ask you to introduce yourself and say something about Supermums, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here today. Um, I launched Supermums 9 years ago because I had stumbled across a career in tech and realized it gave me a great, flexible, well-paid career opportunity that other mothers could do as well. So I just had a baby and decided it was a great idea to start Supermums as an initiative, as you do. And 9 years later, we've helped women retrain all around the world and embrace new careers in technology.
Looking at the name Supermums, it's clear that you focused on a particular demographic. Why this demographic?
Yeah, great question. I think every organization that's socially motivated has a reason and a cause. And with Supermums, it's really tackling three sort of certain areas that I think need addressing. One is that we need to get more women into the tech space. It's very disproportionate. Only 20% of tech roles are held by women. And this is particularly echoed also in the new upcoming roles around AI. So we really want to raise awareness of the different career paths and what they can do and bring more women into tech. Every business benefits from having a diverse technical team. And there's many reasons why all businesses benefit in any team, to be honest, from leadership level downwards to having a equally balanced and diverse team. The second is that women who've had years out of work looking after children struggle to get back into the workplace. And there's various reasons for that. And we've looked to tackle and provide a package of support around women who are relaunching their career to make sure they are successful from A to Z. But, there is that stigma out there. It is a barrier for women to get back into the workplace. So we want to make sure they've got the latest, most in-demand skills and training to be successful at interview. And we've got some great success stories around that. Third is around gender pay gap. Women typically are the people that are lower paid. They have the lower pensions when they get there, again, because they've maybe had time out of work looking after children. And in the technology space, people can have really good, well-paid careers, also given the flexibility. So that is one of the reasons why I was inspired to launch Supermums, to educate women about, there are different career paths you can have. Yes, there are lower paid roles which you can go into and have flexibility, not dismissing any of those because they're very relevant and suitable for anybody. But also there are these career paths in tech that are well paid, and we can help women get a great salary, still have a career they love, and be successful and feel like they've got that career life balance that they wanted. So that's what's really driven me to do this. And they are really important sustainable development goals as well. So they're recognized globally. And a lot of companies that we work with, when we place talent, they equally want to work with us. Supermums gets in the side door of a lot of companies because they want to make sure they're hiring, they want to make sure they've got representative CVs, that they're considering all of their options. And so it's been a really lovely path where I feel like a lot of people are supporting our mission, both men, lots of male allies in the sector, which is fantastic as well, but also equally women that come to us that feel like part of this community.
That's important because if you think about where AI is going to potentially impact, a lot of the jobs that may well be going are likely to be currently done by women. But just reflecting, Heather, on the time that you've been running Supermum since it started, what changes have you seen in the workplace and how have jobs changed in that time?
Yeah, things seem to be advancing the rate of knots. I mean, we keep going through revolutions, right, where things are changing. We've gone through that with manufacturing and everything's now done through robotics. This is another era where jobs are changing and technology will take over certain jobs. But what's also important to remember is that the statistics that are coming out now is there's 97 million new jobs to be created through AI. So, yes, we can stand in this position where we were and go, well, what's happened to my job? It's like, okay, well, how do we prepare for the jobs for the future? And women that come to Supermums are seeing that. They're going, I don't want to be left behind. I want to embrace the new and I've got to keep moving forward. Like we can't be static. If we look back, things have never been static. And some real examples of that, and I think what's really come to my sort of, dropped into my light at the moment is like, well, how do I prepare the people I support for change? is if we take simple jobs like a project manager role, we skill up people who can become project managers on a tech project. If you're going for a job interview, if you are a project manager that has learnt and adopted AI tools in your project management approach, you are going to be doing things a lot more quickly and being a lot more productive in your role than a project manager who hasn't learned AI and is doing things in a more traditional sense. And so that's just one example. If you're a business analyst, of which, business analysts have a massive role to play in terms of AI and making sure that business processes are mapped out and automated, and obviously that supports the whole technology implementation. But again, if you're a BA, making sure that you're learning those new AI tools is incredibly important to think, well, how can I be most productive in this role and get things done quicker and more efficiently than a BA who doesn't. So the job roles in themselves, from a technical point of view, might not be changing. I think there's a lot more job opportunities opening up and where people can progress into, like, those roles where you're producing agents or you're doing the integrations. There's loads of great opportunity there, lots of new products that are coming out that you can upskill in and sort of get, be one of those unicorns that knows and can implement these new products. It just there's all these opportunities in so many different ways. And I think if you're embracing a career in technology, you're never going to sit still because technology is always evolving. So it's going at a pace that suits you. But I think we're seeing every job role where technology can play a part starting to shift. And it will be like, can AI play a part of my role? If it can, how do I upskill in it? That's the question we should be asking ourselves.
And talking about upskilling and the skills, to what extent have skills that companies are looking for changed since you kind of first started Supermums?
Well, as I mentioned that, there is this broad opening with AI, and AI is all encompassing. And I sat there and sort of overwhelmed with it, like, well, where do you start and stop with this? And I think there's two ways I'm addressing it with our audience right now. One is we're running a 90-day AI campaign with mums to think about how they can use AI tools in their home life to improve their productivity. So how can they save 10 hours a week through using AI tools and learning them for their own application, just to manage like family logistics, planning, their fitness, career coaching, life coaching, all of those different things, and sort of just getting familiar with AI. I think then the other angle is like in my job, how can I be more productive? What tools can I learn and start to apply that will make me more productive? And the way that I'm on this journey too, right? Like all of us are on this journey going, what does it mean for me? How do I apply this to me? And the motivation for myself to learn this was like, I want to save 10 hours a week. That was the pivotal moment where I had people say to me, I'm saving loads of time with AI. And I'm like, okay, I need to do this because I want to save that time too. I want that time back with my kids. And so, I think one, there's got to be the motivation. That's my motivation. The second is talk to people, ask them what products they're using, find out how they're using them, get them to do demos for you, and then you can start. And that's what we're doing at Supermums is we're starting to do the show and tell of what's possible, so it brings it to life for people. Because I think when you've seen the demo of the product, you're like, oh, I get it now. Okay, that's how I use it. And then you've got that appetite to learn it, and then you can find the course that's going to help you upskill.
That's really interesting because when you look at the where we are today and some of the changes that are taking place in the world of work, there is marketplace for jobs itself has changed. I wonder what changes you're seeing when you're working with organizations in terms of the things that they're asking you in terms of both the skills and the competencies that they're looking for.
I think with any job role within the Salesforce ecosystem and probably applicable to other tech roles and other products, is that people will be looking for candidates who have AI skills. Because if you can do the same job, whether it's a BA job, a change manager role, project manager role, technical role, and you're using technology, AI, to speed that up, then that's obviously going to be a win-win for everybody because things won't cost as much to do. You'll be more efficient, and you'll get things done. So I think that's one change. I think the other change is there are other job roles opening up. So understanding the different job roles that exist within the AI ecosystem, anything from governance to creating agents to integration to testing, you name it, there's a whole raft of roles there. And what we're seeing is people being very excited by this. One, it's face of fear. I was at an event in London this week, which is run by a group called Women Love AI. And it's a group that of women that have come together because they want to be on this journey. But the topic on Tuesday was about facing your fear of it. And the thing is, we're all scared of learning something new. How do we come about it? And employers, when employers see it, going back to like the job opportunities, when employers are seeing it and going, okay, that's what we need, that's what they're going to be looking for. And I can see that even with my own business now. When I'm hiring people, I'm going to be going, well, have you got AI tools or an appetite for AI to use AI? Because I think it's going to be essential in terms of how we run a business. Every business wants to save time and money, and that's not about losing somebody's job, but it's about scalability. It's about being more efficient. And so I think we can't ignore it. I think if we're going to be competitive in the job market going forward, we either specialize in it or we embed it in what we're doing right now.
And that embedding means very often it's people working together with the technology. Um, from the work that you're doing with the mums who are coming to this new, or looking back at the ones who maybe started with you, some years ago, how is this kind of amalgamation of work between the person and the technology? How is that coming together?
In terms of their journey, so I think for a lot of the mums on their journey, they're overcoming their fear of tech. Quite a few people that come on the journey have never learned technology before. They don't know what it means. We give them a free course where they can get their hands dirty and try it out because it's very hard for people to commit to something and pay for something if they don't know, well, will I like this? Will be any good or anything else? So we have a free 2 hours beginner's course. And I think just getting that opportunity to see how a technical product works, get a feel for it can really help entice somebody to take that next step into training up. And once you then start on this learning journey, the other big thing that's, I just did a customer success story today, actually, with one of our trainees. And the feedback is very consistent, is they love being part of a group of people on this journey of learning. So you're not alone on upskilling. I think when you're by yourself, isolated at home, and nobody else is into it, certainly my partner isn't. I'm like, okay, I've got me and myself and I to talk to about this. It's kind of like it's very isolating. Whereas with Supermums, we create a community of people, a cohort on a learning journey. They can support each other. There's structured homework and training each week. There's that accountability, that motivation, and that really holds everything together for them. And there was this lovely quote that, we might all wobble, but we can wobble together and that makes us stable. Like, I absolutely love that quote. And the format that I take with Supermums is actually no different to the workplace. Everybody at work right now is going, well, how do I use this? How do I learn it? And if you create this learning journey for people in the workplace that creates, again, the same structure, the same accountability, the same community structure, you're going to bring your employees on that journey as well. So quite often we have companies that come to us to say, look, could you deliver your Supermums format in our company? Because we see that it increases adoption, increases that, going back to the adoption, that's what the podcast is all about.
Yeah.
If you create this learning journey that is cohesive, inclusive, accessible, again, all our training is virtual, and it's bringing people on a journey together and they're excited about it. That's how we're going to create this movement of people upskilling in AI and feeling comfortable with it. It's all about creating the right learning environment.
And that learning is really important because clearly, as this technology changes, not only is the skills needed and the competencies needed for the technology changing, but also learning how to do jobs differently. That learning, that the pace of that learning is likely to have to increase as well. How do you find people are adapting to this much faster way of having to learn and then learning and then using that learning incredibly quickly?
So I think when you implement any technical solution, it's the same element of change management that's needed. And I think a lot of the AI projects that have been, right, let's get this done and be one of the thought leaders, they haven't succeeded because actually change management hasn't been there in the way that it's needed to. Like, there's been a lot of communication in the press and media, which is about people fearing that they're losing their jobs, right? And I'm not dismissing that. I think there's certainly, situations where it will replace jobs, but again, it's like, how do we upskill to go into jobs that exist going forward? We can't change what is happening, but how do we upskill? And the sort of the journey that we want to take people on is that they are excited about this future in a way of like, if their jobs are going, how do we move them and upskill them into another role, for example, or how do we upskill and move them as part of a redundancy package if need be into an opportunity where they can then progress into another career somewhere else. I think, change management has to be deployed in that organization in the right way. And it is a discipline. Like, I've studied it. It was, to me, the aha moment of a technical project. I was like, okay, I get that this actually is the most important piece of any a technical transformation journey that companies are going to go on to. It's about bringing people. I talk about the three E's. You've got to enthuse, engage, and empower people to be on this journey with you. So if you're going to do any AI transformation project, make sure that you've got a change management practitioner or somebody who understands change management, and there's a change management plan. And if you were to simplify change management, it's about really good communication all the way through. It's about making sure that you communicate at the outset. There's a really important business case, but also the personal benefits to the people. It's about then communicating what and when it's going to happen throughout that journey and making sure that people feel empowered. And then you have a really great training and rollout strategy. And I talk about the gold standard training strategy in my change management course that I run. And the gold standard is, it means that it lends itself to different learning styles. You've got audio, visual, audio, digital, kinesthetic learners who all need to learn through a slightly different method. So when you train people, you want to make sure that you're delivering training in a way that accommodates for all those different learning styles, and that you bring people on that journey where they're able to continue to feedback on the product, give feedback, allow for those iterations to happen. I mean, that's just a very light touch approach to change management, but it's some of the fundamental pillars that I think are really important.
Certainly from my perspective, coming from a change management area, and it's where I've spent most of my life. I think many organizations struggle not with the technology, but they struggle with implementing the change that's needed to ensure that the technology delivers what it ought to deliver. So we've said that the technology is moving at pace, and people ask me, where do I think AI is going to be in 5 years? And I say to them, I haven't a clue. It's like an eternity. But looking forward, Heather, perhaps 2 to 3 years, which again seems like a long term now. What kinds of skills should people be developing in order to ensure that they are future proofed against these technologies that are coming through?
It's $1 million question, isn't it? I think the way that I'm embracing learning right now and keeping a pace of things is going to events
Hmm.
and sort of being in the room, rather than just ignoring it and saying, well, this is, do I need to embrace this yet? I think it's being in the room where these conversations are happening. I think it's signing up for newsletters that talk about it, or, depending on your preferred reading style, it could be YouTube, podcasts, whatever suits you. Start to tune in. Doesn't have to be lots, just one that talks about it. Kind of keep awareness of what is going on in the sector. I think, we're seeing robots came on order apparently yesterday with the buzz of the press and the even in our team, like, a robot you can order at home that does all your housework. I'm like, is this real? Like, and you're like, okay, so the robots are here. What does this mean for me and the cleaners, right? It's taking the jobs of cleaners. So you've got all of these different things on the roadmap. And I think we just need to stay with our ear to the ground and not be complacent about it. And I can't, we can't move away from the fact that we are going to need to invest in learning and training development. Like, you don't have a job for life these days. It is a continual journey, and it's making sure that you don't feel overwhelmed. So, I think there is that element of overwhelm. But I think it's finding your lane. Like, right now, if you're learning, there's lots of products. In 3 years, there's probably going to be different products. That some products will have been successful, other products might have fallen off the roadmap. And it's hard to, know which ones are going to be the ones that are growing, and will be the best ones. I think lean into ones that seem to be successful right now and sort of focus on those because they're probably going to get the biggest gravity and the biggest market share. But keep your eye on the ground for new ones that are coming behind that, and go just learn that focus on the AI roles or focus on the solutions that are going to help you in your job where you currently are. But just keep your ear to the ground.
It seems to me that the ability to learn itself is becoming a core competence. There was a time where you learned while you were in school, and you learned when you went to university. You learned when you kind of took up a new role. But after a while, you kind of got used to that role, and the incremental learning beyond a certain point almost seemed to slow down. But it seems to me that we're now in an age where people are going to have to continuously learn. It's almost like continuously starting, your first day in university all over again because everything's changed. Are you are you seeing people struggling to kind of cope with that level of learning and constant change?
Yeah, there's a few things that come to mind for that. One, if you said what could we have in 5 years' time, it would be just a little chip that we could put in our head that would just give us all the knowledge, right? That was still waiting for that. I'd love that. Because you're like, how do I learn all this stuff? How do I make time? And it was interesting, the conference that we met at, the AI conference hosted by yourselves at Salesforce, there was a chap on the panel that said, allocate, I don't know how many hours he said, but like 1 or 2 hours a week to learning AI and being in the room. And so off the back of that, I came back and said, right, Monday night is my learning night. Monday night, I'm carving out time for me because even for myself, I hadn't actually spent quite a bit of time learning. And I think what's also important is your learning style. I learn best when I'm out at events and conferences and listening to people rather than listening to on-demand training or podcasts. And it goes back to your learning style. Do you learn best through audio, through visual, through kinesthetic, getting your hands dirty, trying things, through reading stuff? Understand how you best learn. For me, I'm best going to events and learning and being practical. And so Monday nights I have allocated. I've also started going to many more events, and sort of learning and being there in the room and talking to people. Like every conversation, I'm like, oh wow, okay, I've just learned something completely new. And so I think it's about just being in the room, find and align to your learning style and start to invest some time in that and be intentional about it.
This notion of learning styles, clearly it's very important, and you're absolutely right. Different people have different ways of learning and absorbing information. For someone that hasn't thought about what their learning style is, how should someone go about even starting to reflect or think about what their preferred learning style might be? Any pointers on that?
Yeah, so I do this when I deliver my consultancy skills course. I do a little quiz with my trainees, and we do it with everybody that comes through Supermums actually, because we want them to all know their learning style.
Mhm.
But imagine if you were building a play shed in the garden for your kids. How would you go and work out how you're meant to build it? Would you go and watch a YouTube video, which would imply that you're more audio visual? Would you look at the diagrams in the manual, which would indicate you're more visual learner? Would you go and read the manual back to front like yesterday, and that's an audio digital learner? Or would you actually just not look at any instructions and start building it, which is more of a kinesthetic learner? So
That would be me.
that's me too. Then you have to undo it or if you did it wrong. So it's really important. Like we've had many people come to Supermums that have tried to learn Salesforce by themselves and have just struggled because they're not learning in a way that suits them. And at Supermums, we accommodate all the different learning styles. Like we package in practical work, the reading, the audio, the live instruction, everything. So actually it touches all those different points. I think the other key thing is that motivation. Like, why should we motivate? Why we need to have the why? Why are we going to learn this to be even motivated to learn? And the thing that pivoted me the other week, because I've been involved in it and it's part of my job, but for me personally, it was meeting two CEOs where they've said, I'm saving this much time doing AI. And I was like, I want that. That was my motivation. I want to get more time back. So you've got to find your why. Like a business telling you you must learn this isn't always the motivation that is going to really entice you to do it. But if you can find the reason why it's important for you personally, you're going to carve out that time to learn because you'll see the benefits for you as well as the wider business.
That's interesting. And in addition to having that why, which I think really provides the motivation for learning, it's also about taking responsibility for learning and taking responsibility for your own learning. And I guess there is a shift, isn't there, where there was a time organizations provided a level of learning. People went on training programs, either within an organization or employers may have sponsored some learning or development for their employees. Do you see that shift? Are people now starting to say and recognize that actually I can't rely on someone else to deliver me this learning? I've got to go out and develop myself, develop my own skills. Is that shift in responsibility starting to be seen?
So one of the pivotal things that we're seeing on AI projects from research is where there needs to be really strong leadership around AI. And so actually one of the first parts of the conversation is that the leaders in the organization who become the executive sponsors for it really need to know and understand AI, and then they can replicate that message down the organization and get everybody on board with it. So if you don't have leaders at the top that understand AI, then certainly you're going to have employees below them that are going, well, I need to sort this out myself, because I don't want to be left behind, or I want to make a difference to how I work. So I think it depends on the appetite at the top of the organization. I think businesses are increasingly under pressure to look at this and address it because competitors are going to be getting ahead and being more efficient. I think for employees who use AI, what we've started doing within our team at Supermums is just talk about actually how do we use AI at home and at work in between us because we didn't even know that. And so having those conversations and learning from each other, again, it's creating that community where you're learning from each other. And again, another great conversation, which was an eye opener for me at this event that I went to on Tuesday, is there was a lady there that sort of had read a piece of research where she said, using, if we take Chat GTP as an example, I'm in the 40s. I can't remember what bracket that's meant to be now, but we use Chat GTP as almost like the Google search, right? And then there's millennials who use it more as a research advisory kind of level, and ask it advice. And then the generation below that, I can't remember all these generations, but the 20-year-old generation use it as an operating system. And so I think if you start to open up conversations with people in the room and employees, you can actually teach each other. Might not necessarily need to go on training courses, but I think just talking initially around amongst your colleagues, your friends, like how do you use AI, in what way, you can learn from each other. And then you can choose to go on training courses that might upskill you. And I'd certainly put a business case. If you're going to ask your employer to fund it, there's a very clear business case for AI. Just ask ChatGPT, ask it to create a business case for you. How do I convince my employer to give me this? Can you give me a really good ROI statement? And present that. Like say if you invest in this course, which might be so much money, is going to help me achieve X, Y, Z, and I think that can be a great justification and can start to see a shift in how employees will embrace it.
I think that's important because as the technology changes and people are going to have to work much more closely in teams that have the technology as part of the team. People are talking about having AI agents that are part of the team that we're now working with. Understanding how they're going to interact with these agents becomes increasingly important. Have you seen this starting to evolve? Have you seen this starting to emerge in some of the examples and some of the work that you're doing?
Well, within the Salesforce ecosystem, there's a lot of companies that are progressing and moving ahead with Agent Force, which is the AI agents that Salesforce create. And we're upskilling some of our super mums in Agent Force. We upskill people in that. And, there's a a great set of case studies. It's their fastest selling product. Companies are embracing this and we're seeing use cases. It was interesting, there was an MIT piece of research that said 95% of AI projects are failing right now, but they said those that are being successful is more the back end operational ones rather than marketing and sales. And so there's other things that behind that are the reasons, but it was interesting that actually a lot of the front runner projects are almost like the safe ones, right? If you're piloting this, let's try it internally first rather than, potentially risk customer interaction and everything. I mean, there are definitely ones that are front facing with customers, but it indicated that the ones that were most successful were those that are sort of back office functions. So I think it's just moving at, there's lots of different products that create agents as well alongside Salesforce. I think the more research that can be done around, what use cases are working really well, which way do you go with it? What are the different, what's been successful and what's not? I think we're all in that learning journey right now.
Yeah. And part of that journey is ensuring that as a society we can move together. There is every possibility that the way this technology evolves, you may well have some people who are able to adapt and move forward, and others who are not. From a policy perspective, Heather, what are your thoughts in terms of what policies the government might consider to ensure that people are not left behind?
Well, this used to be my day job for 5 years, shaping shaping, advising government on training and employment strategies to get people into work. I designed Supermums to kind of be a best practice program based on all of my research. So I used to evaluate the success of training and employment programs and, what would be successful. I think it's those the key ingredients that I talk about is one, you know, make sure that there's quality training programs available to them. They don't they quite often can be an emphasis on they have to be certified and official qualifications. Don't think that's relevant right now. There's lots of product-based certifications that they need and softer skills that they need, and they don't need to be a formal accreditation that might be with a university, etc. Like, I think there's a plethora of courses out there that are popping up that people will need to learn, and say the different products have their own training courses potentially as well. So I think it's opening that out, allowing people to take training courses that are relevant to the jobs that they're going for. They might fund those, they might give loans. They used to do loans for training. They did away with that, but again, that was another great resource. I think, for around the training, what we do at Supermums is we provide a one-to-one mentor to every learner that goes through our admin course, and that learner meets with them 1 to 2 days a week to check how they're getting on with their learning, to check their competency. They sign off homework records, so it creates that accountability structure, but also that one-to-one guidance for that person. We have career coaches who provide career guidance to help them think about their transferable skills, how they resell themselves into a new role, how they can overcome the imposter syndrome, how they update their LinkedIn profile and their CV. We do a lot of work around that. And also, as I mentioned, with this community cohort, we make sure people are on a learning journey together. And they then have, let's say, that accountability structure to kind of move through it, but they're not alone on that journey. And all of those components are really important to get somebody from A to Z, whether it's in the workplace really, or if they're unemployed, you know, going through that journey of helping them pivot into something new. So that was what I always saw in the successful programs that help people relaunch their career effectively and get back into work.
Heather, thank you so much for being on the AI Adoption Podcast. We've covered a huge amount of ground, and I'm really pleased that we've had a chance to focus particularly on skills and the skills domain, because as these technologies evolve, ensuring people are able to not just keep up but kind of get ahead of the curve, to understand how they can get ahead of the curve through some of the things that Supermums is providing, but also to be able to have the confidence to say, I'm going to go out and learn and then deliver something uh, which is of value, I think is a huge step forward. So thank you for being on the AI Adoption Podcast.
Thank you for having me.